Hi, I'm Julia Bruton. This is about We Are Woman, a podcast exploring female and new aspects on the topic of VR.
Cathline, you have a very interesting vita that I read about. Could you tell us a little bit about the work that you've done before you went into VR?
Okay, so hello everyone. So yes, actually before going into VR, I was a psychologist, sexologist. So first I had my patient and I was having a therapy office, basically like a normal sexologist. And then I did some little project that was actually not first related to VR, but there were, I would say basically it's like hacking sex toys, but because it's not forbidden, it's not hacking. So I would have like different artistic and funny projects, such as the Pussy Talk. Pussy Talk was a project where basically you receive your SMS, like your message through your genital into Morse code. So like short, long, short, short, long. And that was more a funny project to combine it with poem and things like this. And then I did other projects a little bit like this, connecting my dildos to the music festival and things like such as this. And then I did a
may I ask, did you already in that period were in like with your patients or with people trying the things out? Were you already in contact there with them?
I would say yes and no. I would say I was raised without technology. So at first I started with my patient without technology at all. And then after I started to talk about my project with my patient, also because most of them knew me through this project, through the media. So I would encourage them to actually find new ways to entertain themselves or make a nice surprise to their partner, especially if they were like a software developer. But I would not use it with them because it was not, at this time I was not doing VR. And I'm using now VR with them. And that was a big part of my job after a while. But like this little project, not that much. I would just talk about it to more give them inspiration for their relationship, how to break the routine.
And how did you actually then came across VR? What happened?
So what happened? So as I mentioned, I was raised without technology. So being into technology was kind of strange for me. But I actually came across this because I first read a book and I hated this book. It was the worst book ever. I will not even mention the name. And it really made me want to never use technology ever, because the vision of the writer was totally opposite to my vision of the world and what I want in my life. And I just had like this reverse idea of, no, I will not let the world become like this. I don't want my future to be like this. So I entered technology and start to check for conference people who were in the technology industry, in the sexual industry. And then I figured out that there were brilliant people actually out there that were doing great things, and that was actually more close to my vision of empathy, art, connection with people. But just that was maybe not enough, like catchy. So in the media, they were not talking that much about them, but that was more close to what I wanted. So I entered this world like this, and about VR especially, the first time I came into this world was through a project called In Bed with Ocean. And so basically I was in a conference, and in the conference, the speaker mentioned, maybe one day we can have sex with the ocean. And at this moment I was like, oh yeah, why not? This is exactly the thing I want. Like this is strange, but I kind of like it. So I went at the end of the conference and just asked him like, how do you have sex with the ocean? Because this is the thing I want to do. And he said like, I don't know, I just mentioned it like this, and that was just the thing. And I was like, okay, so I want to work on this. Can we work together? And he just opened a Google Drive and said like, let's work on it. And then in this project, I was living in a little city in Lyon, not that much little, but like not close to the ocean. So I was like, okay, how can we just do this? Because the ocean is pretty far. And then it popped up the idea, let's use VR. Let's use VR. And like lucky, I was pretty lucky because I had a friend who was working in VR with VR headset that was going underwater. So yeah, that was actually the lucky part, because he gave me like he gave me his VR headset to use it into swimming pools. So then I was having like these VR scenes of ocean and I was swimming in the swimming pool. That was absolutely awesome. I need to say that was one of my best experience. And so I could run out this first research project that I did in VR. And that was really the entry door for me through VR. I really fell in love with VR. It was very strange. I think it was like Sexology. I put the VR inside and I was like, yep, this is my work. I'm going to do this. This is it. And so this is how I went to VR.
This is how you entered it. And I'm guessing the fascination kind of stayed with you, and that's why you're also kept staying in VR so far. If I may ask, what about the medium do you think is so great for what you're doing, which maybe another medium cannot provide you with?
So I think two things. To be totally honest, I think augmented reality is the real medium. But right now, people doesn't have augmented reality glasses. It costs a lot. It's not mainstream. So for me, like this one would be the best one. Then virtual reality, what I really love is the immersion and the possibility of art inside of it. So, and it's actually why I'm doing VR right now. It's also because, like in my project, you can enter the Sagrada Familia. I'm living in Barcelona, so I will use. You can enter the Sagrada Familia, and maybe in the animation, Gaudi, which is the creator of the Sagrada Familia, can come to you and flirt with you. This is not possible in the real life. You will never get flirted by by Gaudi or by Van Gogh, or I never, And I just love this idea of the why not and the possibility of creating everything. And this is what I love in VR. First, this thing, then the second thing is that actually now, even if it's a little bit creepy, even if it's a little bit strange, when you're in a long distance relationship, you can actually meet in VR. You can sense the other one. So yeah, it's not perfect. It's not the real, but it's still better than having a phone call from my point of view. So it's connect people together. Most of the people think that VR lock yourself into a box and that you will not connect with the other, but that's actually not very true, I think.
Yeah, it's all about basically how the brain perceives it, right? Because I remember during the Corona, situation where we all were locked up at home, I had the possibility to do Skype calls or meet people in VR spaces. And I always felt so much more connected. And like, I've been with the people that I've met in VR rather than what would happen after the call when I had a Skype call or a Zoom call, because our brains kind of translated to us as if. And that's like the fascinating
that is
part.
Actually amazing. Like during the COVID, I had like this boyfriend who was actually living in Netherlands, locked on, no way to visit. And I need to say 3 months without visiting, like boyfriend is kind of a little bit long. I mean, if we didn't have VR, there is no way our relationship would have worked, because we were exploring world together. He was also in virtual reality industry. So we're like, trying to see, okay, how we can have cyber sex. How can we like connect? All the things are memories, and these memories are so strong that, just to give an idea to the audience, like when we split up with this beautiful person, we actually continue the relationship in VR a little bit, which is strange, but like we're like, okay, in the real life, but in VR, we couldn't stop because it was all world. And every time we met, and you have like someone else now, and I have someone else, and like the first thing was like, do we do VR with the other one? Because we're kind of, it's all world. I don't know how to explain it. It's very funny. And we still have very good friends, because because this thing was so special that no one can take it out from us. And so yeah, VR is to meet people, and it's so funny also. I mean, it's very
That's
funny.
true.
This is the
Yeah,
truth.
absolutely. Yeah. And before we get into another project that I've seen that you kind of worked on or are still working on, I wanted to know in terms of your practice, right? And maybe people that come to you for help or to talk to you about their situation, especially with sexuality. Do you believe that what you just said right now also concerning your ex-boyfriend, that VR on the one hand gives you a real experience, but kind of lets you also be somebody else, you know, who kind of then is ready to do some things that they wouldn't be doing in real life, and yet it connects to a real memory in the end, so that, you know, there can be some other changes in terms of on a psychological level? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's totally fair to say. So and I will give some recommendation if like to the people, because I think there is some games people need to try. Like there's one game that is called Where's Our Thoughts Goes from Luca Risotto, and this game is not about sex, it's just about love, it's just about psychology. Basically you have question about like, okay, which advice would you give to the 6 years old yourself right now that you live this life? Okay, can you talk about the first love? Can you talk about one loss that was like difficult to live? And so all these games allow you to kind of, I would say in a way, be a little bit your own psychologist, like reflect on yourself. So there's some beautiful thing about this that are out. About sexuality, I used virtual reality with my patient, where I was like basically creating some animation scene that were helping them to explore themselves. Okay, if they were afraid to look at their genitals, because some people are really afraid of this, I would first put them in VR, exploring in VR. So yes, it's not their genital, but it's a little step, you know, it's like a little bit step that allow them to slowly go to the real. Or sometimes if they are transgender persons, just the fact of putting the VR headset and being finally the gender they really are. I mean, I seen people crying doing this, and it's very beautiful. So there is some things like this. And about sexuality with my patient, most of them didn't have VR headset. So when they had VR headset, I would explain them how to do the thing, like in VR chat. I would say like, okay, you can be anyone, you can be a monster, you can be an object and everything. For the rest, the problem I think is that there is not a lot of things that exist right now on the market. So it's you have porn. From my point of view, really most of the porn is really, I say 2000. I mean, like we've seen it. Okay, we saw it works. It's like McDonald's. It will always work, but there is no taste. And there is not a lot of new things because it costs a lot. Not a lot of people have VR headset. I mean, more and more, but the cost of production is huge. The sex tech industry is difficult to access because most of the people don't have investment funds. It's my case. It's the case of most of the people who work in the sex tech industry. It's kind of a hard like path to take. So though it will come, more and more things will come, but right now, even if there is lots of possibilities, like in the future, there is not a lot of things right now that exist, or you have to be a real geek, you know, like someone who like knows how to do with the computer, which is also not accessible to everyone.
But when I just listened to what you said, you know, I remember when I was at film school, we had like one course about, you know, female movie makers, and a part of it was feminist porn, and we would kind of look a little bit into that. And we had a very open discussion between the girls there, and it was clear that sometimes sexuality is a lot more imagination, you know, and not so much the rare physical, you know, action, especially when on the visual side, when we talked about what we're looking at. And you talk now about, you know, you become objects, you could become monsters or interact, you know, with other like entities. And don't you see that there could be a huge field like for female sexuality in the field of VR that could be actually addressed in a completely different way than what is happening at the moment in film?
Definitely. Like there's some people who do actually some pretty good, like I would say pornography, feminist porn. I mean, maybe, but like Erika Les for sure. In France, there is Olympe Duché that doing, like there is lots of, like there's some person who actually do proper things, but it's pretty rare. For VR, I think it's a huge field if it's addressed a good way. I will give this example because so with my co-founder is a man, and one day I let him lead a content for a woman. It was a disaster, but it was so bad. I'm still laughing about it right now. When he showed it to me, I was like, no, this is not exciting. This is creepy. You cannot do this. And I was like, of course, the problem is like he cannot know. And he's a very nice person, very empathic person. But the way you direct a movie, a content for women or for men or for the community of LGBTQ, please, like, it's so different. And it's actually why I'm heterosexual, and it's why like some people ask us like, oh, do you have like some content for LGBT? And I'm like, actually, I can do some, but to be totally honest, I'm not sure it works. So it's why like we will not do it like at the beginning, because we need to hire a proper team who knows what they are doing. And me, I can like, you know, like have ideas. I can like, you know, but I'm pretty not sure that I'm not good at this, you know, like to be honest. So yeah, there is a nice field. There's also some interesting thing that maybe I can mention, because there is some research about VR. And VR is more difficult for women actually than for men, which is probably because of the VR headset that you put on yourself. And when we're a woman, most of us like experience some, you know, some aggression, a little thing like this. And putting a VR headset right now that is big is sometimes a little bit like, it's kind of deprivation in a way, because you're inside of something. And so right now, like we are actually researching a way to make women feeling more comfortable with VR in order to help, you know, to help them to come more in VR, but also put away this fear of like, I cannot see what's going on around me. And, you know, in a way, I'm I'm used to have like some bad experience in my life. So I need all my senses to be aware. And this is, I think, one reason why sometimes women, when they are not used to VR, are a little bit afraid of putting VR headset. In the research, they put some normal content as they just check if the women were putting away the glasses more fast than the men, and they made all the research. So it's why there is new things to do. VR headsets are not really made for women right now. I mean, they really, even about the eyes distance and all this thing, the shape and everything. So I hope in the hardware industry, they're gonna improve this. And in the content, there will be more women doing some good things. So it will open up more. But I do think that there is like a big, I mean, I'm a woman, I'm fanatic of VR. My friends who are women who are in VR are really fanatic of VR. You're a woman, you're in VR, you know? So it's just about like opening this world to more women by being women, and like creating content and software and hardware that are more friendly in a way for us.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Let's talk about your project in Imbue VR. Do I say that right? Okay. Just a short introduction. It's a VR project for couples, right?
Yes.
That you kind of developed. Can you tell us a little bit why you developed it and how it went on during the phase of working on it?
So Imbue is really a game for couples, but couples who are in the same room. I need to precise. It's not for couple or far from each other, because we basically create little theater pieces for them to play in the bedroom. So you really need to be two, one VR headset and one phone, because one got the VR headset and the other one got instruction on the phone to play with the senses of the partner that is drawn into a fantasy, a sexual fantasy, a story. It doesn't have to be sex. Actually, most of the time it's not about sex. It's more about like flirting or a nice thing like this. So how did I pop up with the project? So basically, I'm a sexologist, psychologist. What is the first main problem of the people all over the world? Routine. I mean, after a few years, you don't really have, I mean, even if you love each other so much, but it's super difficult to break the routine. You don't really have time. I don't know, if you want to try something new, sometimes it requires lots of hours of practice. I'm thinking about shibari bondage. It's not an easy thing. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to enter the new world. I will talk about tantrism, which is super nice, but at the same time, you may feel uncomfortable to join the community, or maybe you don't really know how to do it, and it takes time to get into it. So that was the first thing, like, oh, how can I help couple to break the routine and help them to have better fantasies and better imagination, play together. But so I was researching in this area of VR, of everything, of technology. And then I was in a VR festival and I met my co-founder, who was actually doing this contemporary dance VR piece that was mixing the real and the virtual. And everyone was trying this art piece, because it was an experience artistic piece. We're going out crying, like, this is the best experience. Wow, it's amazing. So emotional on it. And I tried it, and it was super, super emotional. So basically we're dancing, but someone was touching you at the same time, and it was super beautiful. And so I just crossed his road in a bar, and I said, like, wow, it's amazing what you do. And he said, like, what are you doing? I said, I'm a sexologist. And then at the same time, we're like, we should do this for couple. And it was like in 10 minutes. So yeah, then like it was super fast. Then I moved to Barcelona 1 month after. So like we did things pretty fast. And we started to work together, and we really had this friendly crush, like work crush. It was like super intense. We wanted to do lots of things together. And then we started to think like, okay, how can we mix the real and the virtual together, to create more empathy, to help couple play together, to help them to explore new fantasies that they would maybe be a little bit afraid to even mention to their partner. You know, because after years, sometimes you may want to now try, I don't know, it could be like anal sex, it could be like BDSM, it could be anything, but before you say no. So now how do you address again after a few years that maybe you want to try? Sometimes you feel shy. So we can be the excuse, I would say, basically. And so then we started to do this journey of creating content, creating the application. We actually still don't have the mobile app. We're working every week. It's taking more time. It's difficult. We're 2 person in the team, so we're doing the shooting, the scripting, the things. So it's kind of a little bit difficult, and we're searching for fun. So it's also a little bit, we need to do everything, you know, from scratch, learning everything ourselves. But it's actually very interesting because we put it to the test with couples and festival. And one thing that most of the people say is like, oh, I expect it to be super sexual, but it's super emotional. Like most of the people put away the VR headset and they just hug us when we do it to them, because obviously we don't do the sex part, and we do just the normal part, and they hug us, they buy us drink, and then they want to talk about lots of things, you know. They're like, you can see that it's a big, huge icebreaker to actually communicate about sexuality, that people at the end, they put away the VR headset, they hug you. So they never forget that it's you who give them the experience. It's not about what they see inside. It's about like, you are caring for me at this moment. You help me to explore something that I didn't knew in my life. So they never forget to thanks. And that is kind of something that I found interesting. But I need to say, like, our system was based on the system of a company. It's not a company, it's an association called Beyond Lab. And it's make 12 years they are working in neuroscience and empathy. So we kind of know the thing. And there is a new documentary about Cara Delevingne in I think it's like I'm so bad at remembering, but Cara Delevingne like tested actually our product and the product of Beyond the Lab. You can see it in the fourth episode of the documentary about her. I think it's like Planet Sex with Cara. I think it's this. And you can see the reaction. It's interesting, I think, to see that like at the basic, this was made for empathy, to fight against racism, to fight against exclusion of people in some communities, about like to help transgender people to show other people what it is to live as a person with transgender and experiencing violence and everything. So because it was made for this, I think it's also why it works super well for empathy and for couples in a way, you know. So yeah, this is kind of a journey.
And is it possible, like if couples out there now listen to this, to contact you to access, you know, the app maybe, or are you still in like the work in progress production part?
Yeah, we're actually still in the work in. So the thing you can do is going on our website and ask for a demo. Register if you're a couple and you have a VR headset. To do some tests, because we're going to release the beta version. So our app is not going to be perfect. I'm going to say it, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the final app. But the idea is to get some feedback from the people about the content, about what they love the most, about like how they will think. Also the thing, to have in a way our first like consumer, because in the process, then we have to go to investor and everything to improve that. Because I need to say, like, content production is a huge investment. Making an app about VR is not an easy thing. It's like it costs a lot, so you cannot do a perfect thing from the beginning, except if, I mean, you already have lots of fun from the beginning. But this is not what we have. So you can try. This is true. You can register on the website. You can try. We will send you some content. We have nice content. We have one about Tantra that is beautiful in front of the Sagrada Familia with music, and actually the actor is so cool and so nice, and so all the women who tested it was like, oh, it's so respectful. He asked every time he touched my leg, and there is no nudity. It's really about learning the basic about tantrism. We have content about striptease of monsters, talking about the norm. We have like animation content. We're gonna have like one about magic with a real magician that makes tricks and with also erotic thing. So we have nice content that you can try now. But it will not be the final app. We're going to improve. I mean, obviously one.
Yeah, but it sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm definitely gonna go to your website and ask for that demo.
That's great. Thank you.
Cathline, let's talk a little bit about your experience. Like, you go a lot to conferences, you talk to people, you are very open, you know, about the projects you're doing, about the themes, you know, that are represented in them. What is like the feedback that you're getting, especially in a very, I would say at the moment, technological and also kind of male-dominated world? Do they get the basic where you're coming from? Are they curious? Are they, you know, shy? Are they maybe rejecting it? What can you tell us about feedback that
So I
you're
would
getting?
say two things. Like, I guess the people really don't like it, don't come to me and tell it to me, probably.
Okay.
You know, this is always the thing. Like, it's kind of a little bit strange to go to someone like, I hated your conference. It's strange. So I don't really know about this, but most of the people, when I do conference, if it's, I would say, 30-minute conference, they get what I'm talking about. They understand that this is about poetic. This is not about porn. So it's why most of the time I need time to explain, because I go through different projects. Oh, I did this project. Then we go to the ocean, which is more, you know, poetic side of my work. Then we go through love story in VR that makes people understand, like, okay, actually I can use VR in a relationship. And then I go about into my vision and what I want in the future, for the future of sex, but also talking about my project. And I think all the people get it very well. Most of the times they come at the end of the conference and they're like, oh, I want to try. Oh, that's beautiful. I really love it. Most of the people are really open about it and really want to try. And they told me that they never even thought about it this way. You know, it's like when I talk about it, then they're like, oh yeah, of course. But they just never thought that there were this angle that you could take about cyber sexuality, and that it doesn't have to be something pornish or too hard or too geeky, that it could be like more poetic. So I have lots of return like this. So that are the good returns of most of the people in conference. In festival also, I've seen people crying, like, you know, like very emotional about what we do. So that was very beautiful. But in the opposite, when I do some content on social media, or I have a documentary who has been released about my work, and okay, I would not say the people who watch the documentary, but like the people who see short videos in Instagram or TikTok or things like this, then it's shared. I received some very message about the fact that I'm apparently destroying France, which is very interesting, because I didn't
France, like the country.
Yeah, France, the country.
Oh, that's
it's
a big power that you have there.
Because I'm French, so it's a big power. It's exactly, I'm always like, didn't you have this power? But it's interesting to know, just to tell you, like, I'm destroying France by making like just like content. So, and sometimes I mean, I think everyone with in this industry like suffer from this, like lots of haters writing you, telling you that like basically they're gonna burn you and like things like this, like death threat, which is interesting, because it's like, I'm not doing that crazy thing. I mean, like that, I mean, it's about sex, but it's pretty much about empathy and love, which is strange to receive so this kind of message. So also, yeah, some people devaluating the work or not understanding, but this I can understand, because in a 3-minute video they cannot understand that it's not only about hacking, that is like more interesting than that. They cannot really understand that it's about connecting people together, that our game is not to replace sexuality. And I think most of the people are really afraid of this. They're afraid of the dystopic version of cybersexuality. And I understand them in a way, because I was the same before. They are, you know, like they have this Black Mirror thing in the head, and they're like, oh, we're going to only live with our mask and we will not connect to each other, will not talk to each other. It's a very common fear. I mean, if you read about when you read about like when Gutenberg, the printer, I'm sorry for my English, I don't know how to say, like was made, and they started to make books, all the people were super afraid about the fact that these books are gonna like become invasive, and they're gonna replace the talking, and no one will have knowledge, and blah blah blah. And every time that there is something new coming up, there is some fear that goes with it. Same with like everything we see right now with the metaverse, where it's just something new, and the changes can be like can be difficult to accept or to understand. So then you see all this press taking like, yeah, it's come and take over the world, and it's like, no, it's not just not gonna be like this. This is too much.
Yeah,
Like
no,
it's gonna be
yeah.
okay. It won't be like that what people think. It's way more natural. It's way more human. I mean, we're
Yeah,
gonna
and I
keep
think
talking.
what many also don't understand, what I realize is when I talk to colleagues, or other filmmakers, for example, that it is a completely new medium for itself, and it works in completely different ways. And
Yeah.
when you say that they see a short clip of 3 minutes, and they don't even have experienced the medium so far, then they put on projections of an older medium or a different medium onto something where it doesn't apply. And I really hope that, and maybe a few years, when we have another talk again, and this will just have changed because people will just have had the experience, of trying VR and understanding also, what you talked about and how it can change the perception and how it can actually be part of connecting people rather than separating them.
Yeah, totally. This is a funny thing because obviously I'm working in VR, so I always have my VR headset, and I try my content to my grandmother, just to tell you. So the content are okay. I mean, they're always like, "Oh, I really love the guy," and they're talking to the guy inside. It's super funny to make them try. But the thing is, like, sometimes when I make it try to some friends of new people, I have two reactions. Or the people are like, "Oh, I really want to try," or the people are like, "No, I don't want. And I feel that they're afraid to put the VR headset because they're afraid to lose control or the sense of reality. And I'm like letting them go to me slowly. And when they see other people trying, they're like, okay, maybe I'm going to put it. I never had anyone that put the VR headset and didn't put it away and say like, wow, that was amazing. This is totally not what I was thinking it was. And same thing as like I was mentioning, we have a content which is a striptease of monster. And when I show it, the teaser on my phone, absolutely, I would say 100% of, like, I would say, okay, 90% of the people say, no way I get excited by this. No, it's not my thing. I put the VR set on them, and it's so funny because they're like so much into it, and then they put away the thing and they're like, oh my God, I think I'm a furry. And I'm like, no, but I told you it's gonna work because it just worked. I don't know how, but it's just different. And so if you address the good way or the nice way, and everyone get into anything, I would say it's just about like the way you film it. The same your movie maker, so you know this, like you can address the same topic different when people will get into it or not. And this is the same with VR, but the truth is that it's so different to what I ever experienced before also. Like it's just, as you mentioned, just all different media.
Thank you so much, Cathline. This was an amazing talk with you.
Thank you super much for everything. Thank you everyone to listen to me. And yeah, let's see in 2023. Hope the best for everyone, I would say.